Hello everyone. If you've been following my channel in the last year, you'll probably be aware that I've been painting up some figures to use for the Baron's War. And I made a start by painting these. Well, this group of figures I'd already painted long ago, but these other three jousting knights from Curtis stroke First Corps. So these knights I originally bought to play with a set of rules called cross lances, and in painting them up I've sort of ended up going down a kind of rabbit hole and thought, well, as I've got them, I might as well give the rules a go, see what they're like. And that took me on a whole, as I say, right down a rabbit hole. Took me on a whole sidetrack of preparing some scenery and other bits and pieces for a medieval joust game. And all the time I was doing it, I was well aware that this set of rules, cross lances, had long since gone out of print. It originally came out in 2013. I picked it up at Salute in 2014, where Curtis and First Corps were putting on a demo game of the rules, and it looked quite interesting, so I thought I would get into it. But I was very aware that it's no longer supported, it's not published any longer, all the accessories are no longer available, the website has disappeared that supported it, etc, etc. So, I strongly suspected that the rules were a failure, but nevertheless I stubbornly carried on with this project and didn't really investigate the rules too much, knowing that if I were to read them and find, oh yeah, they're pretty rubbish, that would kind of stall this project that I've gotten into. So it's taken me an awfully long time for a number of reasons. I'm just going to change the camera angle around and show you the table set up a little bit. Yeah, so here we are. But really, I should have stopped. All you need to play the game are the figures, the rule book, and the cards that you can cut out and so on from it, templates and markers. But and also this bit of scenery here, the actual tilt itself, which is still available from Curtis, as are the figures. Another good indication of the fact that the rules have been a flop was that each group of knights, I paid £20 for them, for each blister. You can pick them up now for £14.40. So even after 10 years of inflation, they've gone down nearly a third in price. I think they're probably desperate to get rid of them now. Yeah, but this, you can also buy this tilt from Curtis still, but it's specifically designed, marked off in inches to use with this game of cross lances. That's all you really need. But I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting visually, so I bought a lot of spectators and so on. I got some from CP Models, but also had in my lead mountain, I had an old joust set from Irregular Miniatures, so I painted those up. You may have seen me, I put them up on when I finished painting them, I put them up on my YouTube channel, so you may have seen that. And yeah, but then when having got the figures, all the additional figures and everything painted up, I then wanted to kind of, obviously needed stands and buildings and so on, pavilions for them to sit in, and that caused me a bit of a headache as well. At first, my first inclination was to print up some on my 3D printer, to print up some buildings on my 3D printer. So that's what these are here, and that didn't prove terribly successful. Even though they're fairly flat, uniform structures, they proved quite difficult to print. There was lots of sagging, and if you didn't use supports, and when you did use supports, the supports were too close to the surfaces of the actual building, and it caused marking and so on when you tried to detach them. And also the figures, although they're the right scale, the figures don't actually fit in them either, so I needed something else. So then I thought I'll try and scratch build something. So I made that object there, which looks all right from a distance. The steps are 3D printed, but I did the rest of it. Yeah, it looks all right from a distance, but it's very, very ragged. Doesn't look like a particularly luxurious, sort of covering on it and so on. When you get close up, I use that plaster cloth, and you can see the texture in it, and there's lots of stringy edges to it. So I wasn't happy with that. So then I bought some MDF stuff from, I think it was TT Combat, and I'm never terribly sure about MDF. It works fine to me. It looks all right for wooden structures. So these stands look fine, and you don't have to do much with them either. I mean, MDF looks like timber anyway. So all I did with those was just give them a wash with some shades and things, and they've turned out perfectly all right. But things like things that are fabric or tents, I think just look absolutely awful. So here's a tent, for instance, and it was incredibly difficult to put together. Because it's kind of, you have to really apply a lot of pressure to get the pieces to fit over the tabs and so on, and you can easily break it as you're applying pressure, because you can't really get a purchase on it from the inside in order to get it to fit firmly. And you can see where there's a lot of recesses and things where I didn't put it together terribly well there in particular. And then of course, I mean, it looks totally odd. It doesn't look like a tent at all. It looks like some kind of sci-fi building. And then you've got to paint it, and unlike shades, MDF I find doesn't take paint very well. But the main reason I wanted that set wasn't for the tents. It was to get a kind of pavilion that I could seat, the king and queen in particular, the spectators, have them looking something good. And again, that doesn't look like, it doesn't, to my eye, it doesn't look like canvas or fabric of some kind at all. But from a distance, I won't zoom in on it. From a distance, it looks all right. So I cracked that problem, got everything together. Now I've got the spectators, the buildings, everything I need to play a game, and I've tried the rules out, and they are worse, far worse than I anticipated. And this morning I finally got around to reading a review on someone's blog. He purchased the game at the same time as me in 2014, but he actually played it at the time, and he wrote a really damning review of the rules. So it's not my intention to review the rules in this video. It's long. It's well in the past now, the rules, and as I say, they're no longer available. So if you see them on a bring and buy or something like that, I wouldn't be tempted to buy them, other than, as this blogger said on his blog as well, it is possible to make your own game up using the kind of basic structure of the rules. Things that are wrong with the rules are it's really, really badly proofread. There are some awful mistakes in it. Not only that, but you really get the impression that it kind of contradicts itself as it goes along. It's only a very short set of rules. It contradicts itself as it goes along. So you get the impression that they were trying various mechanics out to see if they worked and then tweaking them as they went along, but they weren't revising what they'd already written. So you end up really confused as you read the rules through. Sorry about that, just had the post delivered. Yeah, you end up really confused, and there are various sort of interpretations that you can make of the rules. I mean, he was in a slightly more fortunate position than me, that he wrote the rules, at their time of release, and he participated in one of those demo games at Salute in 2014. So he knew how those players were playing the rules. But in fact, my understanding of the rules as I read them is that he wasn't playing it correctly, in inverted commas, according to what is written in the rules. But anyway, I'm going to make the best of a bad job, really. Having got this far, I'm determined to get at least one game out of it. So I'm going to play a game showing you my interpretation of how I think the rules, are best applied, especially if you're playing it solo as I am. You need to sort of tweak it slightly anyway. And we'll see how we get on with the tournament. Okay, now in the rulebook there are two separate types of game. The first of them is the straightforward joust, which is why you have a figure with a jousting lance mounted on horseback. The second type of game is called the grand melee, and that's when all the mounted figures just basically have a free-for-all in an area, and they're all armed with hand weapons such as swords or maces or flails, that kind of thing. And that's the reason why you have a second mounted figure with a hand weapon. Now there's also a dismounted figure with a hand weapon, and that is because they intended to bring out another additional set of rules for dismounted combat in a grand melee, and because the whole thing withered and died, they never got round to it. So it's another kind of indication of how swiftly this thing was discovered to be such a disaster. So I'm only going to be playing the straightforward joust. The reason for that is that although I've got the rules for the grand melee and I've got the figures, the rules are even more opaque and hard to understand than the simple joust. And you need, more to the point, you need to use hex markers, which at the time I purchased a set of from Sally Forth, who did these MDF hex markers. Now these are in the book as well. As I suspected, you need one of these for each player, and I only have one set, so I would have needed to photocopy the hex markers in the book and then put them on cardboard or something to be able to use them. And currently I'm without a printer because I bought myself a new laptop and the old printer that I've got isn't compatible with the new laptop. Can't get a driver for it, so I'm without a printer, and I'm unable to do that. And I really, having been disappointed with the rules now, I just really can't be faffed to go to all that trouble. So, having done this, I'm going to call it a day on this particular project and use the figures for what I originally intended, which was to get into Baron's War. So today we're just going to be playing the straightforward joust, and we're going to be playing according to my interpretation of the rules. This isn't right and it isn't wrong, because there is no clear ruling in the book. The rules are just, the book itself is just a mess. So this isn't the correct way of playing it, it isn't the incorrect way of playing it, it's my way of playing it. So what you do, I'm going to start off, well, I've got four knights, and they're each going to fight one another. You have 3 runs down the tilt for each joust, and there's a scoring mechanism which I'll explain as we go along. So each player picks up at random one of these personality trait cards and puts that on his board, as it were. Now, I am not going to look at what they are. That's my way of playing these rules solo. If it was 2 players playing, then they would look and see the values on the cards, and that would determine when they would play them. And then you also, each player has a deck of 30 cards, which are called skill cards. So again, I'm going to pick 3 of these at random and place them down on the board. So I have to be careful not to get these 2 decks muddled, because that would obviously skew the game, because there's a certain proportion of it, each of the values in there. So we're going to put 3 from a different pack on that board there. Now, if I was playing against an opponent, that person would have looked at these cards, seen the values on them, and determined the order in which you're going to play. But as this blogging review that I read this morning pointed out, there's no point in playing a low value card first, because the way the games work out is you often don't get to play the last run, or even maybe the second run. So there's absolutely no sense in holding back the high value cards to the end. You want to play them as quickly as possible, because you might not get the opportunity to play them, which is another kind of flaw in the rules. Okay, so what you do for each, and also as I'm playing solo, I am going to play the personality card right at the beginning for each player. So that's William Marshall's cards played there. I still don't know the value of them, and John DeVere is going to play those 2 cards there. Okay, then each player rolls a pair of dice, 1 red and 1, they recommend 1 red and 1 blue, and yet very usefully in the rule book they use green and white dice, even after having recommended red and blue. The reason one is red and one is blue is that's because the table that you referred to has a different result, for red and blue dice, so it makes sense to use red and blue. Okay, so William Marshall has rolled double 1, and John DeVere has rolled a 5 and a 3. So you move the figures, the number of inches down the table corresponding to that dice roll. So William Marshall's only moved 2 inches and John de Vere has moved 8. Now, the important area of the game is the middle. Again, this is contradicted in the rules. It's either the middle 6 inches, so that section there, or the middle 4 inches. So I'm going to play middle 6 inches. And in order to get what is known as an attain, both the players have to be within that area. So I'm going to say within the 6 inches. So clearly that hasn't happened because William Marshall hasn't reached that area yet. And also, if they had reached that area, then the player that had rolled the highest dice roll automatically gets 1 point. Now, the way I've decided to play this sort of rules is because now it is very likely that the players are going to pass one another without them both simultaneously being in the attain area. I am playing it that on the first roll, the player that got the highest dice roll does score 1 point. So John de Vere has scored 1 point so far, and that's simply to represent the fact that he's faster off the mark, he's more determined, he's got faster down the run right at the beginning. So I'm just going to I'm keeping a score separately, just to keep track of the points scored, so it won't be a moment. Okay, so I have to roll the dice again now, and as I say, what I'm finding is this seems to happen virtually every time I roll the dice. Yeah, it's happened every time I've played this game and done a run. That now what's happened is John de Vere has only rolled a 3, 2, 3, so he is still within the attain area, but William Marshall has rolled an 11, so that means he is up to 13 inches now. So he is now leaving the attain area. Now, I am also interpreting, my interpretation of the rules is that 1/2 of his stand is in the attain area, the other half isn't. So I am interpreting that as that he has left the attain area. Possibly that might be why they talk about 4 inches and 6 inches, I don't know. So I'm going to say he has now left the attain area, but in this particular case, what has happened is that this is known as a lesser attain because one player is still in the attain area and the other player is within 2 inches of it. So we're going to score that as a lesser attain. And the way that scores, and again, forgive me because I'm reading from the rules and they're written really badly. So the players have to have passed one another, which they have, and obviously they will have done. Because I suppose it might have been the case before that William Marshall had only arrived there or something. But they have to pass one another. Right, and the dice rolls used previously for the movement are now used to resolve the lesser attain result. The player with the highest roll is the winner and scores 2 points, the loser 1 point. So in that case, William Marshall had the higher dice roll, so he gets 2 points and John de Vere gets 1. So they're now both on 2 points. And You turn over the skill card, not the personality card in this case, and you look at the values of those. So John de Vere had a -2 and William Marshall had a 0. So the difference between the cards is 2, and the winner scores 1 point for each skill over their opponents. Now, is that the winner of the joust, or is it the difference in, is it who has the high, is it the winner of the, I suspect it's the winner of the card turnover, but in this case it's the same player, because John de Vere had -2 and lost the dice roll, and William Marshall had 0, which is higher than -2. So William Marshall scores 1 point for each skill over their opponent. So he scores another 2 points, and that is the end of that run. Okay, so William Marshall won that first run 4-2. So we put the pieces back to their start points, discard the skill card, but not the personality card, and we play the next 2 skill cards and do the whole thing over again, and this happens 3 times. Okay, so we roll the dice again, and this time it's going to be more interesting, because William Marshall has scored 8, so he ends up there, and John de Vere has scored 9. So he ends up there. Now this brings up another issue, which is that an attain, because they are both in the attain area, or is it not an attain yet because they haven't passed one another, so they haven't had a chance to cross lances? Literally, that's the name of the rules. If reading the rules, I can't see any indication that it isn't an attain, but personally I don't like the idea. They might have ended up kind of like that. He might have been back 1 there, which is the closest they can get without, the furthest apart they can get while still sharing the attain area, and it doesn't look right to me. So I'm going to say, I'm interpreting the rules that isn't yet an attain, so they still have to roll the dice again to see where they are going to set up. But in the meantime, I'm going to give John de Vere 1 point for having scored the initial roll's the highest dice roll of the initial roll. So I'm just marking him off as 1 point, and we're going to roll the dice again. And as I say, there is no real correct interpretation of these rules, because they are so barking mad. Right, so now John de Vere has scored 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he is outside of the attain area, and William Marshall has scored 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he is now more than 2 inches away from the attain area. So even though John de Vere is within 2 inches of the attain area, William Marshall isn't, so that isn't even a lesser attain. So there is no further, it's another run where there was no impact, no effect. Interestingly though, John de Vere had rolled a double, so if that had been an attain, he would have, rolling a double means that you unseat your opponent, but that didn't happen. So we can go back, there's one more run to play. So these cards get discarded without even looking at them. And we do one more run with the third card. Both players roll the dice. So we've got a 6 and a 5. So neither player has reached the attain area yet, but William Marshall got the higher initial dice roll, so I'm going to give him 1 point. And then we roll the dice again, and the odds are that they're just going to shoot past one another now. 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So William Marshall is in the attain area. John DeVere scores 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he has just left the attain area. So now William Marshall is in the attain area, John DeVere isn't, so this is a lesser attain. So once again, just need to refer to the rules. Right, so the player with the highest roll is the winner, scores 2 points, the loser 1 point. So the higher dice roll was William Marshall, so he scores 2 and John DeVere scores 1. Then you turn the skill cards over and note the difference. So John DeVere's got +3. Oh, William Marshall's got -2. That means John DeVere scores 5 points. Okay, so at the end of that last run, John DeVere won that one 6 points to 3. So I'm just going to top up the totals for the whole 3 runs to see who won the joust. Yeah, okay, so John DeVere won that total joust from 9 points to 7. So we discard the skill cards. At this point, we could also, I suppose it makes sense to take away the personality traits and at random select 2 different personality traits, which I have done now for the next 2 players. And the next joust I'm going to play is William Marshall again, this time against Philip Darcy. We're going to play all 4 figures, each one playing each of the other 3 opponents once. So Philip Darcy now enters the table, enters the joust. Oop, wrong side. And again at random we select 3. Just doing this off camera, but I'm putting 3 skill cards onto their boards. And off we go again. I mean, it's not the most riveting of games, but you know, I think the whole thing does make for a fairly interesting, you know, if rather kind of undramatic kind of game. And we still haven't had a proper attain yet. Well, I've showed you the mechanics for that. So William Marshall has rolled a 6, which takes him just to outside the attain area, and Philip Darcy has rolled a 7, which means he's not quite in it yet. But he does score 1 point for the higher dice roll. And so once again, I haven't put the cards on the table yet. Once again, we roll the dice. So this time, Philip Darcy has rolled 5, and William Marshall 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that is a lesser attain, because Philip Darcy is in the attain area. William Marshall has left it. So William Marshall rolled 7, so he rolled higher, so he scores 2, and Philip Darcy 1. And then we turn over their cards, and there's a difference of 1 in favour of Philip Darcy. So Philip Darcy scores 1 extra point. So he won that run 3-2. And move back to the beginning. Play the next cards. And off we go again. 11. A good high roll. Oh, and only 3. As I say, I do find this happens an awful lot, that even though law of averages would suggest that both players would end up in the attain area, they very, very rarely do. But anyway, again, Philip Darcy, the higher dice roll, and we have to roll the dice again. So Philip Darcy gets 1 point, we roll the dice again. 4 for Philip Darcy, 1, 2, 3, 4, which means he's out of the attain area, but within 2 inches of it. And William Marshall scores 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. So he is in the attain area. So this is a lesser attain. Philip Darcy scores 1 point for the lower dice roll. William Marshall 2, and then we turn over the trait cards, and there's a difference of 4 there in favour of William Marshall. William Marshall's got great lance work +3, and Philip Darcy's got poor lance work -1, so that means William Marshall scores 4 points. So he won that round 6-2. So again, get rid of the cards, put fresh ones on. Roll the dice again. 10 and 8. Right, great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, they still haven't passed one another, but I think it's reasonable to say that their lances would have crossed at that point, because they're both, sort of level, as it were, across the barrier. So I'm going to call this an attain, even though they haven't visually passed one another yet. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. So first of all, William Marshall rolled the higher dice, so he scores 1 point. and this is now an attain, so this works slightly differently. Just referring to the very obscure rolls. Right, neither has rolled a double. So now you reveal both the personality card and the skill card. So William Marshall has got a good try, my lord, 0, and great lance work +3. And Philip Darcy has got shall we go home, my lord, -2, and good lance work +2. Right, the winner scores 1 point for each skill point over the opponent's score. Right, so we add up the total then. So William Marshall's got a total of 3. Philip Darcy's got a total of 0. So William Marshall scores 3 points. And you can see, why the bloggers point about what's the point in holding back good value cards, because, you might not get a chance to play them. How this applies. There's no strategy involved in how you play the cards. You play the highest first of all, which makes it a bit odd. Anyway, so we've scored for that. Now we're looking at the attained stride result table for the first time. So I'll just show it there, but basically you've got a red dice roll and blue dice roll. You find the corresponding line and you get the result. So William Marshall has got blue 6, red 4, which is shield a good hit, 5 points. So he gets another 5 points. Philip Darcy has got blue 3, red 5, which is also shield a good hit, but not as good. He only gets 2 points for that. It's just a lower dice roll. So William Marshall definitely won that last run. I'll just pause the camera a moment and total up the total to give you the result of that joust. Okay, William Marshall dominated that. He won by 17 points to 7 for the total of the 3 jousts. I see. So I'll just reset everything. We'll have the next competence. Okay, so William Marshall is now playing the last of his 3 jousts against the third opponent, which is Maurice de Berkeley. So here we go again. Play personality card and the skill card for each. Roll the dice for each. So we got 5 against 7. So William Marshall scores 1 point for the highest initial dice roll, and we have to roll again because they haven't reached one another yet. So this time Maurice de Berkeley has scored 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. This is a good one. And William Marshall has only scored 4. 3, 4. But they are both in the attain area, so this is an attain. Right, so the So we turn over both the personality and the skill cards, and William Marshall's got a total of 2, and so has Maurice de Berkeley. So when it's equal, oh god, so the reason there's so many pauses is there's so many different ways you can interpret these rules, and right, the winner scores 1 point for each skill point over the opponent's score. Where there is no difference, both score 1 point. Okay, so we're going to give each player 1 point. And then we look on the attained stride hit result table. William Marshall got blue 1, red 3, which is helm hit 1 point. And Maurice de Berkeley got blue 1, red 6, which is shield centre split or dented 3 points. So Maurice de Berkeley won that 4-3. And now we get rid of both the personality cards and the skill cards, and we return the players to the start positions and play the second card and roll the dice again. 8 for Maurice de Berkeley, 6 for William Marshall. So William Marshall fails to get to the attain area, but Maurice Berkeley does and gets 1 point for the higher dice roll. As I say, this probably isn't the way the rules are intended, but it's the way it makes sense to me to play it. And we have to roll the dice again. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Maurice de Berkeley is in the attain area, William Marshall is within 2 inches of it, so it's a lesser attain. Something I wasn't doing earlier, which I will now have to, but having read it. When one player is in the attained stride after passing and his opponent is not, that player adds +2 to his score. So I might have unfairly deprived some of the earlier players of +2. So Maurice de Berkeley gets +2 for still being in the attain area. Player with the highest dice roll is the winner and scores 2 points. The loser 1 point. So William Marshall gets 2 points and Maurice de Berkeley 1. And the difference in the skill cards now. +2 for William Marshall, 0 for Maurice de Berkeley, so William Marshall gets 2 points. So that ended up with a 4-all draw. Excuse me. Okay, final run. Five for Maurice de Berkeley and 5 for William Marshall. So, because that's a draw, do they both get 1 point? doesn't actually say, so I'm going to give neither a point. Make a spot judgment. And neither are in the attain area, so they both roll again. So 8 against 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or that's unlucky for William Marshall because Maurice de Berkeley is now just outside the attain area. Had that been one less, William Marshall's double 2 would have unseated Maurice de Berkeley. But it is as it is. That's the lesser attain, so it doesn't happen. Right, so William Marshall scores 2 for still being in the attain area. The player with the highest roll is the winner and scores 2. So that is Maurice de Berkeley scores 2 and William Marshall only scores 1. And then it's the difference in the skill cards. So +1 for William Marshall, +3 for Maurice de Berkeley, so Maurice de Berkeley scores another 2 points. So he won that run 4-3, so I'll just tot up the total of the 3 runs. So that's the end of William Marshall's 3 jousts against each of the other opponents. In that last one, he was beaten by Maurice de Berkeley 12-10. So he's ended up with a grand total of 34 points. So we'll total that up at the end of the entire game. But now it's time for William Marshall to have a well-earned rest. And we'll leave, I think what we'll do is put John de Vere back on the table, and he will be playing Philip Darcy. Right, here we go again then. Next contenders are John de Vere on your left, Philip Darcy on your right. I've laid the table out with cards again. So each player, the way I'm playing it for a solo game, plays their personality card at the beginning and their first skill card, unseen by me, to make it more random, make it more playable as a solo game. And then we roll the dice. Double 1 for Philip Darcy, so he's got nowhere. And 8 for John de Vere. So John de Vere scores 1 point. And we have to roll again. So not in contact yet. Philip, both score 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Philip Darcy still isn't properly in the attain area. And 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For John de Vere. So I'm going to interpret that as a lesser attain, because neither of them are fully in the attain area, but they have now passed one another and they're within 2 inches, both of them are within 2 inches of the attain area. So it's a little bit unusual, but I think that is a lesser attain, I'm going to interpret that as. So neither player is in the attain area, so they don't get a point for that. The highest dice roll winner scores 2 points and the loser 1, but they both have 5. So I think I'm going to give them a point each for that. When both players are outside of the attain and within 2 inches of it, a player scores 1 point, so they get 1 point for that as well. And then you reveal the skill cards, but not the personality card. So John DeVere is -1, Philip Darcy -2. So John DeVere is 1 point higher than Philip Darcy, so he gets 1 point. So he won that run 4 points to 2. Reset the playing pieces. Play another card. And roll the dice again. 8 versus 7. So this is another example where John DeVere isn't quite in the attain area yet, so they haven't passed one another. Had a chance to lock lances, cross lances. So we're going to have to roll the dice again, but because it was the initial dice roll, the way I'm playing it, Philip Darcy scores 1 point. We roll the dice again. So chances are they're going to shoot past one another now. 6 versus 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So John DeVere is now more than 2 inches away from the attain area, so that isn't even a lesser attain. So the upshot of that was Philip Darcy got 1 point, John DeVere nothing, so Philip Darcy won it by 1 point. Get rid of the skill cards and play the third one. And the final one for that. 2 versus 9. So Philip Darcy gets another point immediately for the higher dice roll, and they have to roll again. 10 versus 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Philip Darcy's well out beyond the distance to qualify that as a lesser attain. So once again, no result from that, and that is the third run. So pretty unspectacular. Crowd were a little bit disappointed with that. Booing a little bit from the stands. Philip Darcy won it by 1 point to 0. So in total, John DeVere scored 4 and Philip Darcy scored 4. So evens. So next up, we're going to have John DeVere fighting Maurice de Berkeley. Okay, 2 more jousts to go. So this time it's John DeVere versus Maurice de Berkeley. $11 for John DeVere and only 6 for Maurice de Berkeley. So they haven't passed one another yet, so that's not a lesser attain, but John DeVere scores 1 point for the higher dice roll. And they roll again. 7 versus 8. Yeah, so another non-event. We take the cards away. So Maurice de Berkeley wins that by 1 point to 0. Sorry, was it Maurice de Berkeley? No, John DeVere wins that by 1 point to 0. Second run. 7 versus 7. So what did I do when it was... I think I gave them both 1 point, didn't I? Can't remember. Let's give them 1 point each. And they have to roll again. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So again, you know, they're way past one another. So that was a draw. Pretty uneventful joust, this one. Third. One. 4 versus 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So John DeVere scores 1 point for the higher dice roll, but they have to roll again, and chances are they're going to be miles apart again. 8 versus 8. Yeah, so John DeVere's going to shoot off that way. So yeah, as I say, you know, I find that an awful lot of these runs do end up, you know, that entire joust, you know, nothing actually happened for three runs. So, you know, is that a fault of the rules, or is it something that would have happened in reality? Possibly it would have happened in reality, but that entire joust, John DeVere won by 3 points to 1. So I suppose in terms of the overall performance of the score, you know, that low score of 3 is going to affect Maurice de Berkeley's chances or John DeVere's chances as well of winning the entire competition. So we've got one more contest to do, which is Philip Darcy versus Maurice de Berkeley. Okay, then here we go. Last contest of today's tournament, and it's Philip Darcy versus Maurice de Berkeley. So I've reset the cards. We play a personality card and a skill card for each. Roll the dice and off we go. 5 versus 4. And that means Maurice de Berkeley scores 1 point. And we have to roll again. 9 versus 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is a lesser attain. So that means because Philip Darcy is still in the attain area, he scores 2 points. Player with the highest roll is the winner, so that was Maurice de Berkeley. He scores 2 points and Philip Darcy scores 1. And then you turn the skill cards over. Good lance work +2, dire lance work -2. So Maurice de Berkeley has 4 points there. So he won that total run by 7 points to 3. So he did well there. So we play the second card for, oops, sorry, look in the camera. Each player. Dice get rolled again. 10 versus 2. So Mr. Barkley definitely scores a point there, but they need to re-roll the dice. 2 could be interesting, and 7. 1, 2. So he's still in the attain area, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Brilliant. So that is an attain. They are both in the attain area, and they have definitely passed and had a chance to strike one another. So player with the highest roll is the winner of that run. So Philip Darcy got 7, so he scores 1 point. But Maurice Barkley has got a double there. So he automatically unseats his opponent. No shield or lord cards are played and are removed from play. And for the shield card only is now discarded, but when a double is rolled, the opposing player has been cleanly knocked off his horse and the winner scores 10 points. That's Maurice Barkley scores 10 points. And no attain is made by the loser, and thus no points are scored. So Philip Darcy doesn't score a point at all there. Scores 0. He's been knocked off his horse. I mean, this is slightly contradicting what it said earlier. That joust is considered ended, so that's the entire joust. So that is the end of the game. Ended quite dramatically with Philip Darcy being swept off his horse, probably knocked unconscious, and Maurice Barkley winning that entire run. So I'll tot up all the scores now and give you the overall winner of the entire tournament. Right, so overall the winner of the competition was Sir William Marshall. So there he is, being acclaimed by the King and Queen, collecting his accolades. He scored a total of 34 points. Maurice Barkley was a close second with 31 points. But Maurice Barkley scored well in that final bout by dismounting Philip Darcy, but William Marshall was consistently, scored well consistently over all 3 of his jousts, so he just won at the last. So that's it. That's the game of crossed lances. That is definitely. I'm calling it a day with the tournament project now, and will redirect my energies back into trying to build up some figures to play Baron's War, which is how this all began. So it's been quite a lengthy distraction, and cross lances, I say, this isn't meant to be a review of the rules. Enough people panned it at the time, and it never succeeded. It didn't deserve to succeed. It's really badly written, badly proofread, badly printed, all kinds of misalignments even in the book. And they had a few ideas that they never developed. One of them was to produce a game so that those dismounted figures could fight, but that never came to be. They did bring out a sort of subsidiary book for, peripheral activities like archery and so on. But I think they were even less of a success than the main set of rules. And they were intending as well, along with having personality packs, with the 3 types of knight in them, blisters and the appropriate decals. They were going to bring out cards with specific traits, you know, for the knights, but I'm not quite sure how that would have worked, because everyone would have played the, you know, the more enhanced knights and not the less powerful ones. So it never came to fruition anyway. I'll stop wittering on. I think that, as I say, that's just about exhausted the subject. I've exhausted myself and the subject, and hope you've enjoyed it. You know, it's not the most brilliant set of rules, but it did produce a fairly interesting little game. And see you on the next video. Bye for now.